Hello, let's do the New York Times Medium Sudoku for April 23rd, 2024. For the mediums, the design behind these videos is to teach you a systematic way of approaching these solves. You do not have to use a systematic way to solve Sudokus, but I think it is good practice to do so, especially at first, so that you can learn what are the low-hanging fruit, easy things to find in the Sudoku, and how do I avoid missing things? How do I avoid making mistakes? Because making a mistake in a Sudoku can be the biggest harmful thing to both enjoying it as well as solving it. So I recommend at least trying the systematic approach. Maybe follow along with me for a little bit, and then you'll find what works for you, what sorts of things you find easy to spot, what sorts of things you need to put more effort into spotting. So that is the goal of these videos. I do like to prime you to that because these videos do tend to be a little bit long, 30 minutes to 45 minutes usually, because I'm spending time explaining how everything works, and I'm taking a systematic approach that intentionally ignores some things I would normally show or see, in order to avoid skipping ahead, as it were. Now, there's nothing wrong with skipping ahead, but if I skip ahead too much, it starts looking like my hard solves, and it's harder to tell what the systematic method is. So hopefully that helps you understand this. I do provide a link in the description. This software is called Sudoku. It is web-based and it is free. You can play it for free in your web browser. There's also apps on the App Store for a very low price, if you want to support the creator. And I provide links to solve the puzzles in Sudoku. So with all that said, I'm going to get started right now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through all three bands. Band is just a word for a row of three boxes. It's just a convenient word to use for it, because you can kind of think of it as like a band, like a belt, right, around the puzzle. So there's three of them. There's band 1, band 2, band 3. We're going to go through them in order, and we're going to look for basically one thing, although there's a couple extra things that I'll point out if we do have that in this puzzle. But we're focusing on band-only logic with a little bit of dipping down into the other bands when necessary. And so the biggest thing we're looking for is repeated digits in the band, specifically when there's 2 out of 3 placed. So how do we look for those? Well, we just need to compare each box to each other box. And since there are 3 boxes, there are 3 total comparisons to do. I recommend starting with the box with the least number of givens in it. This box has 2 in it, and just look at the 2 digits in it and see if those digits appear in one but not the other box. So the 1 does not appear in either of these boxes, but the 8 does. The 8 appears in this box, but not this other one. So in that case, there's going to be a single row that the 8 still needs to appear in this box. So you can think of it this way. This 8 looks into this box and says we can't have another 8 in this row. And this 8 looks in this box saying we can't have another 8 in this row. And then we look at this third row where we're looking for a couple things. One is obviously digits that are filled that aren't 8, right? That 8 can't go there. And then we're also looking down at these columns to see if there's any other 8s helping out down here. There are not in this case. So in this box, there are 2 cells left that can be 8. We are going to use corner marks, the corner mark mode, to designate that. And what the corner marks are going to tell us is that within the box, we have limited that digit to just those cells that the corner mark is in. So this reminds us that 8 is in only one of these 2 cells. This is going to be beneficial for multiple reasons, which we'll go over as they come up. But just for now, know that that's kind of a really useful notation to do. This software allows us to combine corner marks with center marks. We'll use center marks to denote. We may not do this at first. We'll encounter a situation where we will, though, I'm sure. We use center marks to denote that cell has been limited to a certain set of candidates. So, for example, let's just do this cell as an example. If I were to center mark this cell, I would see that it can't be 1 because there's already a 1 in the row. It can't be 2 because there's a 2 in the column. It can't be 3, 4, 5, or 6. But it could be, and it can't be 9. So it could only be 7 or 8. So this is actually a pretty good one to center mark. So I would just center mark 7, 8 in here. And that's telling me, hey, this cell sees every digit other than 7, 8, or there's some other logic that we employed that has reduced it to only 7, 8. And so that's useful because if we can reduce it to only one option, then it must be that digit and we can place it. And that would be called a naked single. Okay, so we'll just leave that pencil just because it's useful. I would say only pencil cells, only center mark them, if they are down to 3 or fewer candidates. If it's 4 or more, you're just going to clutter the grid, and it's going to make it harder for you to actually solve the Sudoku. All right, or have fun solving it at least. It's going to make it a pain. So we went through the 1, 8. Now we just have to compare these two boxes against each other. So I would recommend just looking again at the box with the fewest givens if they aren't even. And we're just going to think about 4, 5, and 6. And all we have to do is look for 4, 5, and 6 in this box. So we'll do one at a time. We have the 2 4s. So 4 is in one of these 3 cells. Now when it comes to corner marks, always, if it's down to 2 cells in the box, no matter where they are, I would corner mark that. If it's down to 3 cells in the box, I would only do that if they're all in a line. They're all sharing a row or all sharing a column. So in this case, it's fine because they all share a row. The duplicates will always be able to result in corner marks or placing a digit. Ooh, excuse me. Wow. Sorry about that. Okay, and we have 2 6s here looking in. And then we look at the row that they aren't in. The 8 is occupying one of them. And we look down here and we try to look for another 6 that might be helping out. Hopefully you see it. There's a 6 here. That looks up here. So actually in this box, there is only one cell that can be 6. And so it must be 6. Because Sudoku rules say in every row, every column, and every box, we are placing the digits 1 to 9 exactly once each. That includes 6, right? This box needs a 6 in it. And there's only one cell in this box that can be, so it must be. That's called a hidden single. Okay. Now normally when we place a digit, we would want to follow up. And I'll go over what follow-ups we do a little bit later when we actually do them. But generally, when in this systematic method, I would recommend at bare minimum following up on the things you've already passed. So right now we're still on the first band, so we haven't done anything else previously. So there's nothing to follow up on in the first band. But once we get to the second band, especially once we get to stacks later, spoiler alert, it is very important to follow up on previous things that you've done. When you place a digit. Okay, so that is all the repeats. We got the 8, the 4, and the 6 that we're repeating in here. The last thing we want to look for before we move on from this band, and again, we're focused only on horizontal logic that deals with this band. We'll do the vertical logic later, and so there's no reason to compound our efforts here. I am seeing something really, really obvious we could do, and you're probably seeing it too, but we're going to do that when we get to the vertical scan. And the reason for that is so that we don't lose track of what we were doing, and also because it is a teaching tool on my end to do things in a specific order. But if you see it, feel free to just do it if you'd like to. Okay, so the last thing we do before moving on with a band, first, you're going to look for if there's any rows that are completely filled with digits. There are not. Like this column is completely filled with digits. That's going to be useful later when we do vertical. But for horizontal, we don't have any completely filled with digits. So nothing there. And then we're also going to look for any rows or boxes that are down to 4 or fewer cells. And if they're down to 4 or fewer cells, it's always worth at least just thinking about what are those digits. And does that mean anything useful? So for example, here, this box is down to 4 open cells. So what are they? They are the 1, 5, 7, and 9. So I'm just scanning around for 1s, 5s, 7s, and 9s, right? I've got this 1, I've got this 5, and I've got this 7. Now, at this point, hopefully I've definitely noticed the thing that I was talking about. And because this was down to 4, actually, we didn't have to wait for the vertical scan. But we notice here that the 7 can only go here of those 4 digits remaining. So those are the kinds of things you're thinking about. You're thinking, okay, are there any cells that are specifically restricted? Like something that saw like a 1 and a 5, for example? Or we got 3 of the cells, all that can't be 7. So there's only 1 cell left that can be 7. We would have seen that in a vertical scan too. And now this is down to 3. When it's down to 3 or fewer, I recommend just penciling it because all the cells will be down to 3 or fewer. So we have the 1, 5, and 9 left, and then this can't be 5 because of that 5, and this can't be 1 because of that 1. And we want to scan our band again to see if these pencils helped us anyway. Maybe we found a pair or a triple. We did not in this case. Okay, so we also have this row that is down to 4 digits. So let's take care of that as well. It is 1. Hold on, I missed something. 1, 3, 7, 9. So I'm seeing this 1, I'm seeing this 3, I'm seeing 1 and 9 here. So with 1 and 9 here, this can only be the 3, 7. So we'll pencil that with 3, 7. And these do each see 1 each. So we can pencil them if we want. 3, 7, 9 and 1, 7, 9 here. Now, we are looking to see if these pencils do anything specific, and unfortunately, they don't. There's no pair or triple or anything like that. Or hidden single, things like that we're looking for. Okay, and there are no other rows, columns, boxes with 4 or fewer in this band, so we can move on to the next band. So I'm going to start with this 8 because the box has only 1 given in it. We look for 8 in both boxes. We find it in only 1. That's what triggers us to then pencil 8s in one of these 2. Now, here's something that is actually really, really useful to look for, and may feel a little bit more advanced. But if you learn to recognize this thing, it can save you a huge amount of time later in the solve. So, what am I talking about? Sorry, I was checking my lights because something seems a little white. I don't know. Maybe it's just the color balance on my camera right now. Anyway. Sorry, I got super distracted. We pencil marked 8 in 2 places in this box, and they share a row, which means there is a column that they aren't in. And I looked up at the previous box, or we really just look at both other boxes, and I looked to see if that was the same exact thing was true in another box, and it is true in this box. We've corner marked the 8 in 2 cells, and they also avoid the same column. The important thing is that they avoid the same column. A lot of people see this as an X-wing. If you know what that technique is, you don't really need to think of it as an X-wing. Some people think of it as them lining up, right? You can kind of visualize that. That's a really nice way of visualizing it, is saying, oh, these 8s line up with these 8s. But really what we're seeing, the true thing that we're seeing here, if there's ever a true thing that you see in these, is that this column does not have an 8 in it in any of these 6 cells for these 2 boxes. And I think that's pretty easy to think about, because the 8's here, so it's not here, and the 8's here, so it's not here, right? They're both avoiding the same column. Well, if 2 boxes are avoiding that column, then that means the final box needs to give its 8 to that column. So we can mark 8s down here. And this is called claiming. Claiming is really important to understand. And it's also one of the hardest things to spot, which is why we have these sort of other methods to find it. And so what claiming means is column 3 here, this column, we call it column 3 because 1, 2, 3, it needs an 8 because it has every digit. It needs 1 of each digit. It needs an 8. It's not going to get its 8 from box 1, and it's not going to get its 8 from box 4. So the only box it can get its 8 from is box 7, so it must get its 8 from box 7. One of these cells will be 8. Well, that's deserving of a corner mark. And what that means is these cells cannot be 8. Because if these cells were 8, we would literally have nowhere to put an 8 in this column, and that would break the puzzle. So this is claiming. The column claims the box. These 8s are claiming the box, saying no more 8s in this box, only in this column, please, because the column's going to need an 8, and you're the only box left that can give it. So one of these 3 cells will end up in 8, meaning none of these three cells will end up in 8. We don't know which one, but these corner marks are going to try to remind us that when we inspect what these cells can be, we know that they cannot actually be an 8, even though they don't directly see an 8. They will see either these 8s or these 8s. If you want to think about it that way too, we're either going to have 8s like this, or we're going to have 8s like this. Those are the only 2 options. And so we will be seeing the 8s sort of looking down, if you want. That gives you the same exact conclusion, which is that these are not 8, and the 8's over here. Okay, so that was triggered by me putting these 8s in from the horizontal scan. But when you do that, it's always helpful just to glance and see, okay, do I see lining up here? And only when it's 2. When it's 3, it's not helpful, right? So only when it's 2. And when they're in the same row or the same column as each other. Actually, that's not true. They don't need to be in the same row or column as each other. They just need to avoid a specific column. Okay. Anyway. So we did the 8. Let's compare these 2 against each other. We see that the 9s repeat. Sorry, that's what we're doing. 9 and 1 of these 3. But I will say we do have this 1, 5, 9 triple here. So this is what's called a naked triple. And I'm going to explain this now because it actually does something now. So we know that these 3 cells will each end up with a different value than each other because they share the same column and they share the same box. Pick one. In this case, I'm going to pick the column because this is going to affect the rest of the column. So whatever things you can say that about. You can say that about the box or the column or the row. In this case, we can say it about the box and the column. The column in this case, let's just focus on the column. The column is saying that these 3 digits are going to be different. These 3 cells will have different digits in them. So I need 3 digits, 3 different digits to go in these 3 cells. Can't repeat, right? I need 3 different digits. What are those 3 different digits going to be? Well, if we look, each of these cells has been reduced to only 1, 5, or 9. Some of them can't even be one of those, but that's okay. If I take these as a whole and I account for every unique digit, we've got the 1, we've got the 5, and we've got the 9. And that's it. There aren't any other digits. So no matter how I try to resolve these 3 as different, I know that they're always going to end up using up the 1, 5, and 9. If I put, say, the 1 here, then I could put the 5 here and the 9 here. Or I could put the 5 here and the 9 here. Or maybe I don't put the 1 there. Maybe I put the 9 here, and I end up with the 5 and the 1 here. That would be forced. But no matter how you try to do it, you can try it. Fiddle around if you want, if you don't believe me. But the logic is extremely sound, which is that because only 1, 5, and 9 are even possible in all 3 of these cells, we are only ever going to put 1, 5, and 9 into these cells, and all 3 of them will end up in these 3 cells because they have to be different from each other. So that is called a naked triple. It does not matter that this can't be 5. It does not matter that this can't be 1. What matters is that the 3 cells taken as a whole, in green here, will end up having 1, 5, and 9 only in them. And so the consequence is, in any row, column, or box where they share, in this case, they share a column, they share a box. We don't really care about the box because the box is done. But they share a column. That means the rest of the column cannot be 1, 5, or 9. If I try to put a 9 here, look what happens. This becomes 5, this becomes 1, and this becomes what? Nothing. So yeah, can't put a 9 here. So actually, when I corner mark the 9s, I put them here only. Okay, hopefully that's clear. I know that this is one of the hardest techniques for someone starting out to understand, is because extending the naked pair to the naked triple can often be very difficult to understand, because it's like, well, but they're not all 1, 5, 9, right? This one's not 5, this one's not 1. You're used to looking for identical cells. But the 2 key points I'll put is, just because this can't be 5 doesn't mean suddenly 5 can be elsewhere. Right? That doesn't make any sense. And also, why can't this be 5? There's some reason it can't be 5. There's some reason this can't be 1. But removing a digit from a cell can never make the technique less powerful. You can't reduce the number of eliminations made by a piece of logic. It can increase. It can increase the number of deductions, but it can't decrease the deductions. So, like, suddenly, the universe realizing that that this cell can't be 5, and, it's not like it's forcing you to not put a 5 in the center there. It would be wrong to say that this cell could be 5, but it's also wrong to say 2 out of the 3 here are wrong to say that it could be, because there's only one solution to the Sudoku anyway. Only one of these is right. So really, what we're looking at is logic related to the candidates that we think could go in those cells at any given time. But you could always add one if you want, if that helps you see the technique. Like if it helps you see that these are now identical to each other, and that's now a naked triple. Removing the 5, removing the 1 does not change the eliminations, except possibly improve the eliminations. In this case, it does not. But anyway, this can't be 9. So we're the 1 does not have a buddy. I am seeing something really obvious, though, which is we have a ton of 1s looking into this box, right? So I am going to place this 1 a little early. We would have seen that later with these duplicate ones, but it's just sort of staring you in the face. So I'm going to place that 1 as well. And then now that is a buddy for this 1. And so the 1s go down here. But remember, well, first of all, this 1 says not here. Remember the 1, 5, 9 triple, this also can't be a 1. So that leaves only one place in this box that can be 1. And so the 1 gets placed. And that used up the only one of 2 places that the 9 could have been. So now there's only one place in the box for 9. You can see that this is a lone corner mark, alone in the box. That means it's a hidden single 9. We can place the 9 in the box as well. Okay. Good stuff. That's why I wanted to place the 9s, the 1 here, because it does a lot. Okay, and that's it for the repeats. But remember, before moving on, we look for rows that are filled. This 165 is filled. So what you want to do when you get a filled row is it basically provides fake buddies for our digits, is kind of the way I've been putting that recently. We want to look at the 2 rows that it isn't, right? There's a row that it is. We want to look at the 2 rows that it isn't. And we want to look for any digits that aren't already placed in the box. And unfortunately, there aren't any. But if there were, we'd be able to have a fake buddy in the other box because this is filled. So the buddy would have to be in that row. But unfortunately, that's not the case here. The last thing we look for before moving on is rows, columns, or sorry, rows or boxes that are down to 4 or fewer digits. This box is down to 4. We want to just think about it. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to find anything because I'm noticing that the 18619, 98191 are all already in the box. So the 4 digits remaining are going to be all possible in all the cells. It's going to be the 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and 7. And you can notice there's no 2, 3, 4s or 7s anywhere around here. So we can just skip that. All right. Now we're going to move on to this band. Look for buddies. I'm just going to start with this 1, 9 over here. We had the choice between these two. The 1 does have a buddy, and then this one looks down, so 1 ends up in one of these two. The 9 does not have a buddy. And then the 7 doesn't have a buddy. So that's it for buddies. Rows, we want to look for filled rows. No, none of them are filled. And we want to look for restricted boxes or rows down to 4 or fewer. None of those either. So we are done with our bands. Now we're going to do the same thing with the stacks. We're going to look for the same exact things, but we're going to do the stacks. A stack is a column of 3 boxes. So we're just going to start over here. And again, we're just going to look for buddies. So 1 and 9 do not have buddies. 4, 5, and 6, the 6 has a buddy. So these 2 6s look in. This is not 6. We look over here for any 6s that might help. This one does. So there's only one place in this box for 6, and we will place it. Now, follow-ups. We placed a digit. We need to follow up on anything we've already done. Well, we already think we finished all the bands. So we need to double check for buddies in the bands. And we do find one. So now we can corner mark the 6s here. All right, that was the follow-up for that 6. It doesn't fill up a row. It doesn't reduce a row or column down to 4 or fewer, right? Those are the other things we'd look for because those are the already things we tried to find. And so that's it. That's it for the doubled up 6s, 4 and 5. Okay, no other doubled ups here. No column is filled. All right, over here, I'll start with this 1, 7. Okay, so we do have the 2 7s looking in here. So 7's in one of these two. We also have all of our 1s taken care of because we know the 1 is up here in this 1, 5, 9 triple. The 9 actually does have a buddy in the 1, 5, 9 triple, so don't ignore that. This 9 also looks in, so there's a 9 in one of these two. The 8 has a buddy over here, so the 8 kind of joins the 9, but it can be up here too, so that we don't get like a hidden pair or anything. So 1, 8, 9, 1, 7, those are our buddies, but these are all filled, but anything we found would already be related to this 1, 5, 9 triple, so we can skip that if we want, but you can verify that yourself if you'd like that. You know, we already have the 8 and the 7 in this column anyway, so it's not helpful. All right, we're going to move on to this this stack here. So start with the 1, 9 down here. The 1s are done. The 9 does have a buddy. We're looking for a 9 over here desperately. Don't find one, so 9's is one of these two. And then the 1, 8, 6 versus this one is what I'd do. The 1 we already did. 6 and 8 do have buddies, so we'll do that. The 6 is actually placed in this box. Only one place for 6. Follow up horizontally. This 6 looks in, this 6 looks in, this one's not 6, and we have this 6 conveniently looking down. So that places a 6 here. There's a lot to follow up with this 6. First thing I'm going to do is the obvious thing, which is it removes this corner mark 6. It turned red for us. It removes this 6 corner mark, which can no longer be true. And so now this is the only 6 in the box because it's a lone corner mark. You can place that 6 there. And actually we have finished the 6s. So no follow-ups horizontally on that 6. But we want to backtrack here. We removed one of the 8 corner marks here. And now this is another thing. We haven't had this in this puzzle yet, but we have found a hidden pair. And that's going to be really important. So what do I mean by that? Well, what do these corner marks mean? They mean in this box, the 8 is limited to these 2 cells, and the 9 is limited to these 2 cells, and only those 2 cells. So we need a cell for the 8. We need a cell for the 9. Which 2 cells are those going to use? That's 2 cells in total. They're going to use these 2 cells. So actually, we can convert those to center marks. If you have n overlapping corner marks in n cells, and only those n cells, then you can convert those corner marks to center marks. And what this does, this is called a hidden pair. It's hidden because if we were to pencil these, there's no reason to think that they were limited to only 8, 9. But they are only limited to 8, 9, and that was a hidden technique because of logic within a row, column, or box. In this case, it was logic in the box. where we limited the 8 and the 9 to the same two cells. So it was hidden in the box. This piece of logic was hidden in the box. So the hidden techniques remove all the other options that we thought could be in the cell. So what other options did we think could be in the cell? I think the easiest way to think about that is this column is almost done. There's only 2 cells remaining now. What are the other 2 digits that aren't accounted for in this column? Because we know the 8, 9 are going down here. Well, the other 2 digits are the 2 and the 5. So 2 and 5 were removed as options from these 2 cells. All the other ones were already not options. Now, the first thing we can do is say, well, where do the 2 and the 5 go in this column? Let's start with the 5 because we have this 5 here. So the 5 is actually limited to only one place in this column. So that is a hidden single 5 for the column. Up till now, we've only gotten hidden singles in boxes. This is a hidden single for the column. And then now where does the 2 go? Well, the 2 is a hidden single in the column as well. Or if you want to think about it as just a full house or naked single, you can. Because we have the 8, but 8, 9 are basically taken care of. They're down here. You can think of them as done when you think about the column, but only when you think about the column. All right, so we got this 5 and this 2. Better follow up, right? The 5 has a buddy. This 5 looks down. We can place this 5. Follow up on the 5s because we already did this vertical. These 5s look down, which puts a 5 in one of these 3. No follow-ups from that, but we can backtrack to the 2. Does the 2 do anything? Well, I would say yes, because the 2 looks in here and it has a buddy 2 down here. That's a little bit harder to spot, but I did see it, and I think at this point I would like to use it. So these 2s, basically, if this box being kind of in this checkerboard pattern kind of signaled me to think about that, but I was desperate to see anything with 2s, and obviously it doesn't do anything over here. So I thought maybe it did something over here, and I just looked for 2s, and it just happened to be a single. So the 2 is a single. That removed one of our 8 corner marks in the box, so this is the only place for 8. That actually makes this have to be 7. Remember we penciled this 7, 8 was one of the first things we penciled. Now it can't be an 8. So it is actually a naked single 7 now. And there's only one place for 8 in this box now, which is here. That removes 7 from these 2 cells. When we do that, look at the row. Look what's happened to the row. We have a 1, 9 naked pair in the row, or alternatively, you can ask where does the 7 go and then where does the 3 go? You're going to get the same result. But let's talk about this naked 1, 9 pair. Remember we had this naked 1, 5, 9 triple? This naked 1, 9 pairs are much easier to recognize because it's just 2 cells that are identical to each other. But one of these will be 1 and one of these will be 9. There's no other choice. We need 2 different digits for these 2 cells, and 1 and 9 are the only options. So how could this be a 9? And the answer is it can't. It can't be a 9. Because if it was a 9, these would both have to be 1, right? If it was a 9, these both could not be 9, and they'd both have to be 1. And that obviously doesn't work because they can't repeat the 1. So this can't be 9, which means it's a 3. And now this can't be 3, which means it's a 7. Follow up on the 3. These 2 3s look in. We can place the 3 in this box. Another big follow-up we want to do is this box and this box are down to very few cells. So this box is down to 2. So we'll start with that. We need a 4 in the box. This 4 says not here, so we place the 4. And then the other digit we need is a 7, so we just place it. That 7 removes this 7, placing this 7. Now these 2 cells are down to 3 and 4. This 4 tells us this is the 3, this is the 4. This is down to a pair for the row. I'm trying to focus on the ones that are the least open cells. So for this row, we need a 3 and we need a 4. And we don't know exactly, there's no 3s or 4s here helping. So we're just going to pencil 3, 4 in the center. And then down here, we need a 2 and we need a 7. And this 7 does tell us the order. This is 2, this is 7. All right, we haven't done this vertical yet, so we don't have to follow up on it if we don't want to, although I think we're almost done with this puzzle. But this vertical, you can see the thing to do here is this pair and this pair for the columns. So we already basically know where the 1, 5, 9 are. So what are the 2 digits that are missing from this column completely? Well, one of them is a 2, and the other one is a 3. We already know where the 1, 5, 9 go. They go up here. This is 2, 3. And then this pair is going to be the 5 and the 9. This can't be the 9. Oh, no, sorry, not the 5 and 9. I misscanned. We need the 4 and the 5. Okay, 4 and 5 are not resolved. Okay. Now over here, this stack, we do still have this box, which is down to 3 digits. So we're going to think about that as well. We need the 1, the 2, and the 9. And this cell here cannot be 2 or 9. So it has to be a 1. It can't be 2 or 9, so it must be the 1 is the only option, which makes this the 9 and this is a 2. That looks over here. It resolves this 1 here. This can't be a 1. Sorry, it resolved the 9 made this a 1. And now we have done this band already, and we see that in this band we've got 3 and 4 remaining. So what are these? 2, 5, and 9. So in this row, where does the 2 go? Well, it doesn't go here because of this 2, and it doesn't go here because of this 2. So the 2 goes here. That removed one of my 9 corner marks, letting me place this 9, which resolves this 5 and 9. This cell is now down to just 5. And then up here, we have 2 digits remaining for the box, the 3 and the 4, and we do not know the order. But whenever I place a buy value like that, especially, but really whenever I center anything, I want to be looking for buddies. So this 3, 4 has a buddy 3, 4. So that's a naked pair. So really the question to ask in this column is, what's the digit that's missing that goes here? And it's the 2. So we place the 2. Now follow up on this band. It gives us this 3 and this 2. The 3 actually now has a buddy here. So we can say that 3 is in one of these 2 cells. I am noticing we got this 1. In fact, this column should have been finished. This column needs A's. What does it need? It needs a 4. That's very helpful because that finishes this 5 and this 4. This can't be 5 anymore. 1 in this box can now only go here. You see we have the lone 1 corner mark. I don't know what just happened. Why did it move right? I must have pressed something. Okay, anyway, this column is just missing 1 digit, which is the 7. And now this is going to be 3 digits left for this box or this column. It's going to be the 3, 5, and 8. I'm just going to fill that out. Oh, it's not the 3, 5, 8. Sorry. It's the 5, 8, 9. So I'm just going to fill that out. This can't be the 9. This can't be the 5. And I don't need the corner marks anymore. That's not helpful. This is also 5 or 8 for the row. I'm looking at the row and how there's 2 left. 5 and 8 are the 2 digits left, but the 8, this 8 says not here. So this is the 5. This is the 8. That finishes this triple. That finishes this pair. And then we're basically finished now by just, as soon as we recognize we had rows or columns down to the really 4 or fewer, just it turns out this puzzle was almost done. And so tracing those around allowed us to finish the puzzle. So we never even finished our whole stack scan, and that's fine. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you will. And in puzzles where we will, I'll tell you how to keep going. Like once you've exhausted all the bands and all the stacks and you didn't find anything using the buddy system, I will tell you how to continue. So 4 and 8 are left here. This 8 says this is 4, this is 8. That finishes all these 3, 4 pairs. That places the 3. We get a 3 in the corner. That's just a meme. There's a setting if you'd like to turn that off, 3 in the corner effect. I think it defaults to confetti. You can turn it off. You can change it to DT2. It's just when you place a 3 in the corner, it triggers it. And then this is a 7. And we're done. All right, so this was a relatively easy puzzle when utilizing the buddy system. And so basically this first pass, which is intended to be a simplified first pass over what I normally do, actually did finish the whole puzzle. So it doesn't always, but in this case it did. I'd already talked about that. I'm not sure what the super key spots in this puzzle were. Maybe there were the couple things I diverged from, like noticing these 2s looked in and then these were filled, so it forced the 2 to be here. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was this 1 that I placed a little early, although that one is pretty easy to see right from the start. Maybe it was the 7 that I mean, we didn't really place it early, but we didn't get to the vertical scan first. But yeah, I don't really recall any like, okay, maybe it was, okay, there were 2 things. Maybe it was the 1, 5, 9 triple here, remembering to utilize that when penciling down here. That did allow us to actually place the 1 and the 9 in this box by paying attention to this 1, 5, 9 triple. Additionally, we did find this hidden 8, 9 pair, which let us place the 5 and 2. This hidden 8, 9 pair, once we placed the 6, we got the hidden 8, 9 pair. And then that allowed us to place the 5 and the 2. And from there, it was just smooth sailing. It was literally just looking at rows, columns, boxes that were down to 4 or fewer. And they just kept getting more and more and more of them. And they were all super restricted. And it finished the puzzle. So I think that was kind of the last step, that last important step of the puzzle for my solve, at least. So yeah, let me know how you did. I really enjoy feedback for whether this is helpful. It is a bit of a time investment for me to do every day, to go slowly systematically through a puzzle like this. But I as long as it is helpful to you, I will continue to do it. So I'm happy for any feedback like that. And of course, if you enjoyed this, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below.